Hey folks, welcome to week 14 of DMD400, audio and video for the web. All right, so we are in our second to last regular week. Remember, week 16 is actually finals week, so that's where we'll be doing some final presentations. Be sure to check out the week 16 announcement for all the details about how, when, and where those final presentations are happening. Okay, so let's take a look at the week 14 overview. So this is our last After Effects week in terms of learning some new functionality in After Effects. And so it's appropriate that we are ending with sort of mattes and cool effects. So basically we're talking about sort of special effects and filters in After Effects. So similar to Photoshop or Illustrator or whatnot, there are of course a collection of special effects that you can use. And you can see here that the videos down below, the tutorial videos, the first one is about matting, which is pretty straightforward. But then we've got 3 on effects, more effects, and mind-blowing third-party effects. So this is what we like to call the frosting on the cake. So make some time this week to play around with these, maybe incorporate some of these effects into your title sequence that you're working on, and basically just become familiar with them for the sort of introductory to After Effects, okay? So it's a good week to play around with that. Meanwhile, the thing that is due this week is step 3 of Project 3. Project 3, of course, being your title sequence. So step 3 is to start actually building the title sequence itself. You are going to make your draft of your title sequence, and you're going to submit a really basic storyboard to go along with it. Now, if you remember back at the beginning of the semester, we introduced this handout here, which is all about storyboards. And this is a 14-page handout that goes over everything about storyboards. What is a storyboard? What is the purpose of a storyboard? How does one lay out a storyboard, etc., etc. So now, while I'm not expecting you to be an expert in storyboards at this point, I do want you to be familiar with what they are and sort of how they function. And using some really basic drawing techniques, you are going to make a really simple storyboard for your title sequence. But first, let's go into what the title sequence has to contain, just so that you're clear on what's going on, okay? So, of course, now that you've chosen and reimagined your classic movie and you've learned a little bit about the title sequences and you've collected all your inspirational images, video, and audio content, now we're going to start planning and building the actual title sequence. And, of course, we're going to be doing this in After Effects. Your title sequence must have a minimum of 10 states or element transitions, meaning that something on the screen must change at least 10 times throughout your title sequence. So the background image could stay the same, but maybe the typography changes 2 or 3 times over that particular image. So that counts as like 2 or 3 states. The images could change, but maybe the type on the screen stays the same. A video clip could be running over some typography that creates 1 or 2 different changes. So it's not so much that everything on the screen has to change 10 times, but there has to be 10 occurrences of something that changes on the screen, okay? So that is the goal for that. It must include the name of the movie or TV show and the names of the lead actors. Remember, not the characters, but the lead actors, okay? You can also include any other individuals you would like, including the director, the producer, the production company, anything you'd like to add that you would normally see in a title sequence. The only ones that are required, of course, is the name of the movie or TV show and the names of the lead actors, but you can certainly add others to flesh it out a little bit more. And, of course, as you know by now, you can include photography, graphics, illustration, iconography, music, and or sound effects. You want to make this as professional as possible. By now, you have curated all of your content and have it sort of all lined up, ready to go. Okay. From a design point of view, primarily your title sequence must tell a story that is in keeping with and enhances your chosen movie or television show, as well as the genre and theme that you have decided upon for your remake. You can choose any visual style that you feel is appropriate. You can pull the style from any sort of visual art form, an artistic movement, or a particular artist in general, whoever you maybe have an affinity towards or that we've studied over the years here. And of course, naturally, good typography and layout are expected, as is excellent craft. So be careful with how you lay things out. Make sure your typography is interesting and engaging and fun, but of course, it always has to be readable. We have to be able to see what it says, right? Okay, now the storyboard part is that following the guidelines in the All About Storyboards handout, right, this one here, you are going to create a really basic storyboard for your title sequence. You are welcome to share multiple iterations of your storyboard for the draft critique if you would like. So since there are going to be about 10 transitions in your title sequence, that means your storyboard should have about 10 windows, right? So when you are creating your storyboard, if we look at these examples here, and this goes through a variety of different ways to do it, but you can see here that this storyboard has 8 different panels, right, showing 8 different transitions. And so we essentially need 10 for ours. Now, yours may not look as dramatically changed as, say, this one. You know, here we have a wide shot of a bunch of people in a warehouse type environment, somebody driving into the warehouse, the front of the beat up truck that's driving into the warehouse, a top view of that same truck, the person getting out of the truck, the person falling out of the truck, the person laying on the ground, and then at the end he's standing up and clapping for some reason. The point is that these transitions are pretty different from each other, but in your case, for the title sequence, they don't have to be nearly as dramatic. It could be the same image, and then the second screen is that same image with a piece of type comes over it, and so on and so forth. And don't worry about the drawing style. I'm perfectly happy if these are stick figures or really loose thumbnail sketches or whatever. You draw within the ability that you can draw, and that's perfectly fine. We are working in a 16:9 ratio, remember, so keep your rectangles fairly long looking. And of course, I'm sure you've read through the All About Storyboards handout by now, but make sure you've read through it recently so that you know what you're doing. So along with your draft, which is going to be done in After Effects, you're going to include a little storyboard. Now for this case, you can make the storyboard in advance, which would make the most amount of sense, so you can plan your shots. But I honestly don't mind if you are building your draft in After Effects and then go back and make the storyboard afterwards. Since this is just an introduction to this sort of a thing in After Effects, I really just want you guys to understand how the storyboard ties into the After Effects sequence. And of course, you're building your title sequence in After Effects as we have said, but of course you can use Photoshop and Illustrator to create and edit content, as well as any audio and video software such as Premiere, iMovie, GarageBand, etc., to also edit content that you will then drag into After Effects to complete your title sequence. Okay, we'll go over these steps again, but again, this is due at the end of this week, so if you have any questions, thoughts, concerns, if you want to show me where you are in this and want to show me your draft before you turn it in before the end of the week, either show me in class or, of course, hop onto Zoom and you can show me there. I would love to see it in progress. Don't wait till the end. All right, so good luck working on all that, and if you need me, you know where to find me.